It's the most wonderful time of the year. Dong, ding, dong. It's that time of year again, and we all know what that means.
What?
It's time for a new Doctor Who Christmas special.
I'm back.
Who are you?
The Doctor.
Doctor.
The ghost.
Who's the ghost?
Masked vigilante, but he's super.
Seems nice.
So for this video, I've decided to take a look from my least favourite to favourite specials. God, what a shit way to start off this video. Number 10. The Husbands of River Song. Now hear me out. There are some good parts in this. Peter Capaldi and Alex Kingston are terrific together, and after I first viewed this last year, this probably would have made it a lot higher on this list. There are some really good parts in this, but upon rewatching it, most of it is quite bad. Maybe the influence of alcohol on Christmas Day last year made me think that this was a brilliant episode. It's just bad. The only bits I like, really, are the scenes between the Doctor and River, and they're only like the proper scenes between the Doctor and River, not when the Doctor's pretending to be some other person. And really, you only get that towards the end of the story, and by that, it's a bit too late. It doesn't save the story. Plus we get the first appearance of Matt Lucas's character, Nardole, and I found this character so irritating. Why are they bringing back Nardole in this year's Christmas special? Moffat, what the Number 9. This was meh. In this, Donna was unlikable. It was too much after the departure of Rose Tyler in the previous episode, and while the Arachnos is one of the most impressive looking monsters in Doctor Who history, it does absolutely nothing. Plus some of the acting from the supporting cast are a little bit over the top. One good thing about this episode though is that the word Gallifrey was mentioned for the first time since the show came back in 2005. Number 8. Last Christmas. I actually quite like this one, but there are a few silly things that bog down this story for me. It just seems way too cheesy, and the whole cliche of this being that Santa Claus and elves appear in this, I should have seen it coming, because this was a point when I was beginning to question whether Stephen Moffat really had lost his ability to write a simple but satisfying story, let alone a decent Christmas special. Christ almighty. Number 7. A Christmas Carol. Now I know what a lot of you are thinking. Some of you would have put this at number 1, or a lot higher at least. And in fairness, I can see why. This is actually the best written out of any Christmas special. However, it's not an original story. Yeah, sure, there's been a few things tweaked, because it is Doctor Who after all, but if Charles Dickens have never written the actual book of the same title, then this would either not exist, or if it did exist, then yeah, it would easily be number 1. The biggest issue I have with this is the fact that it's been done like a million times every single Christmas. So when I saw this for the first time, I just wasn't blown away. And this is 6 years ago, and usually I quite like episodes of first viewing, and then when I go back to it, then I might not like it. Like what I said earlier with the Husbands of River Song. Plus, I don't like singing in Doctor Who. Just don't do that. Number 6. The Snowman. This is one of the best episodes from the Matt Smith era. We needed something new, going into the 50th anniversary, and Moffat actually gave us a good Christmas special, which was quite a surprise, seeing as the last two were either mediocre or just goddamn terrible. This was the first time we saw Jenna Coleman properly, even though we already got a glimpse of her before in Asylum of the Daleks. It was a good semi-debut story for her. I say semi-debut because Clara's real debut was in The Bells of St. John. In addition, this episode finally let Matt Smith give us something different to his Doctor, because we're all used to him being wacky before this, but since he's lost the ponds, he went down the Scrooge route. One last note I'd like to make, and I hate to be negative, but why did Moffat have to introduce Strax? He is without doubt one of the worst characters in history. Number 5. The Next Doctor. Cybermen at Christmas. Now, while I do like this episode, it does have some of its weaknesses, most of them actually being with the Cybermen. The main highlight of this episode, though, is the title character played by David Morrissey. When this was first broadcast, David Tennant had already announced that he was leaving the show at the end of the following year, and many believed that the next Doctor was going to be David Morrissey. No one knew that Matt Smith was going to be the 11th Doctor. It was a nice play on words in the title there, Russell T Davies. It was really good. I really like what you did there. You tried to mess with us all. When the actual episode aired, though, it turned out that this was all a trick. Of course it was. And that Morrissey actually played a character called Jackson Lake, who actually believed that he was a Doctor after being exposed to an info stamp. For some reason, this episode does get some hate. I believe this is to do with the Cybermen being too easy to defeat once again. You don't get the urgency as a viewer and saying, oh shit, there's a Cyberman. Plus, they're just not as formidable as they once were, and this episode came out 8 years ago. Ever since, the Cybermen still have not been done right. You can learn more about this from my retrospective of the Cybermen I did not too long ago. Number 4. The Time of the Doctor. The final regular appearance of the 11th Doctor is great. My main criticism with this, though, is that it should maybe have been at least an extra 15 minutes longer to make his demise feel less rushed. Plus, all of the plot threads that dated back to Series 5 could have been addressed a lot better than the manner what we got given. You could say that the reason he regenerated was a bit of a cop-out. Plus, he's been given a new regeneration cycle. Some may say that it could have been done better. Matt Smith and Jenna Coleman give it their all here. I was actually quite moved by his final speech at the end, because you could tell that Matt Smith had a blast playing the 11th Doctor for nearly 4 years, even if a lot of his episodes were shit. Number 3. The End of Time. One of the most divisive stories ever made in the show's 53-year history. The final regular on-screen outing of the 10th Doctor was a huge love letter to fans of his era, and quite rightfully so. In this, we got to see what ultimately was the final appearance of John Sim playing the Master as well, which was just so wrong. He should have carried on playing the Master to face Matt Smith's Doctor at some point, or even Capaldi. I'm sorry, but I prefer Sim's Master over Missy's. Having said that, I don't like what they did with the Master here. They went down the route of making him a maniac. Granted, the on-screen chemistry between Tennant and Sim is so good to watch, sometimes you can't take him too seriously. But I'm not blaming Sim on this occasion, I'm blaming the writing. So I'm actually dissing Russell T Davies for once. Then, of course, we have Wilfred Mott, played by the legendary Bernard Cribbins. Do I really need to say any more? Oh yeah, James Bond's also in it. It's not the greatest Christmas special, but it is definitely worth the watch, just to see some of the best acting ever done on Doctor Who, and no, I am deadly serious. Number 2. Voyage of the Damned. Say what you will about this. Yeah, it may seem a little bit cheesy in some parts, and it may have aged a little bit badly since 2007, But at the time, this was watched by 13 million viewers back then, and it's well deserved. We had a guest appearance from Kylie Minogue, and she actually played the part of Astrid Peth really well. When I watch it nowadays, I do get a Robots of Death vibe from the Heavenly Hosts, which is a good thing, because the Robots of Death is one of my favourite stories ever. It's just so good. This is Doctor Who when it was at its peak, and I really wish that the series reaches these heights again. We can only hope with the return of Doctor Mysterio. Oh God, have mercy on my... And number 1 is the Christmas Invasion. This was the very first proper Christmas special. No, I'm not counting the Feast of Stephen. It was the first 10th Doctor episode, and everything about it was just brilliant. The cast was brilliant, we had brilliant villains in the form of the Sycorax, and at the end of it we got the 10-year-old me excited for Series 2. All in all, this ticks all the boxes for me. And I don't think that any other Christmas special has succeeded as much as this. Plus, this is one of my favourite lines in the entire series.
You want to know the best bit? This new hand. It's a fighting hand.
Thank you very much for watching, and...
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. And a Happy New Year.